Welcome to another Sustainable Packaging Summit virtual panel, once again broadcasting live on LinkedIn. We're focusing today on innovations in paper, which has become one of the big areas of focus in sustainability-driven packaging innovation. I guess this is in the context of consumers putting pressures on brands to eliminate plastic waste. So while efforts are underway to build toward a circular economy in plastics and all packaging materials, we're seeing a lot of new applications in paper. Speaking as the organizer of the Sustainability Awards competition, I can say that last year and this year we've seen a noticeable rise in submissions around paper packaging applications. And indeed, yesterday at the Davos Forum, I witnessed a major global brand owner. I won't mention the name because I don't think they've done the official launch yet, giving a preview of a new secondary carton package that replaced a flexible plastic one that was used up till now. So anyway, today we'll be assessing these trends and looking at the extent of further possibilities in fiber-based packaging R&D. I'm delighted today to be joined by three people who have considerably more specialist knowledge than me on the topic of paper, and very pleased to welcome Elodie Bougnoucourt, who is co-lead of the innovation workstream in the Forever Green Alliance, and she also has a second job, full-time job, a day job as the sustainability manager for EMEA region for Graphic Packaging International. Welcome, Elodie. Secondly, we have Sylvia Hanselova, who is sales director for specialty craft paper at Mondi Group. And last but not least, Alexander Sobolenko, who's Director of Sales and Business Development at Relief, who's with us from Kiev. Welcome everyone. Maybe I could ask you just to very briefly introduce yourselves and your introductions. Let's start with Elodie, please.
So good afternoon, everybody, and thanks a lot for having me in this panel. So, well, Graphic Packaging is one of the largest folding carton manufacturer globally, with a big range of solutions for different sectors in terms of fiber-based packaging. We are also an vertically integrated manufacturer, so we have our own virgin and recycling mills in the US. While Forever Green, on the other hand, is a large alliance across the value chain of the fiber-based packaging, aiming to boost circularity in the sector.
Thank you very much, Elodie. Sylvia, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good afternoon to all of you. Thank you very much for having me today. I'm really looking forward to our discussions. So I'm working for Mondi. Mondi is a multinational packaging and paper company. We have around 26,000 people all around the globe, over 100 production sites in 30 different countries. Maybe what is interesting for you to know about us that we are fully integrated. We are growing our woods, our trees, and we are also manufacturing the pulp from which we make paper. But we don't stop there. We also convert paper into packaging. We know how to coat them, and we do have corrugated packaging, industrial bags, specialty craft paper where I am, and yeah, release liners as well, for example. Thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, Alexander.
Hello, everyone. I'm Alexander. I'm co-founder of Ukrainian-based startup called Relief Paper, and we produce paper and some byproducts from fallen leaves and some other bio-waste. So founded in last year, just in Ukraine. So we also scaled to France, trying to start our business in France right now. But we are mostly on the beginning of our way in the packaging world. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you very much. So I'd like to start by thinking about the main sustainability related drivers of innovation in paper-based packaging. Elodie, maybe I could start with you. Where do you see the key challenges in terms of improving the current sustainability performance of paper, the kind of agenda that you're following with the Forever Green Alliance?
Well, maybe I would like to start with the big picture and then I will dive a little bit more. So for me, first of all, fiber-based packaging as a sector, we are in a good position in terms of sustainability. We start from renewable resources, which are mainly coming from responsibly managed forest. We have the highest recycling rate of all the packaging materials, above 82% in Europe. Currently, we already use a lot of bio-based energy in the range of 62% in Europe. There are applications for the recycled fiber, but okay, of course, everyone needs to improve. We are all on a journey for innovation and for sustainability towards climate neutral and circular economy. So, of course, with that in mind, Forever Green aims to contribute to a low carbon and circular society, with one of the most important goals being to reach 90% recycling rate by 2030. And this can be done making sure we leverage the best practice everywhere throughout the supply and value chain, and also that we innovate wherever needed. So from product development to recycling. If I dive a little bit more on some trends that potentially create new challenges in our sector, I would like to emphasize two main ones. So the pandemic, of course, has created a challenge, and the rise of e-commerce. And with that also has shifted a bit of the fiber-based packaging from commercial streams into municipal recycling streams, which are more difficult to collect and recycle. That also demands for those packaging to become more efficient, lighter weight. A second trend is really like, well, you mentioned in your introduction, is the need to move to a post-fossil zero waste type economy. And of course, the brand owners are demanding for a lot of innovation on that, with the consumer behind requesting them. And I think that has also shifted some applications which were typically into plastic into our sectors, with a bit more of products that have direct food contact, which might be also a difficulty in terms of the recycling potentially. So that would be some challenges we are facing.
Thank you. Thank you. Silvia, any other challenges that you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I would like to just build on what Elodie has said. We need to, what we see in the fiber-based industry is that we need to make faster decisions, not only on small, but on big investments as well, which is bringing a lot of challenges. There is a very high demand. As Elodie has mentioned, a lot of applications, packaging has moved or has a tendency to move from plastic to paper-based. So this is creating a very high demand, which we need to answer. So this project needs to be in place in a very short time. And I would just like to talk about one of the examples. EcoVantage is a product we have put on the market just very shortly, where we had to invest 70 million euros. And it is a product that is very strong while being recycled paper. And very shortly after we put the material on the market, we got sold out. So we were able to show that with investments, you are able to get to new products in a short term, but it really requires very good focus.
Thank you. Alexander, I guess Sylvia and Elodie have already covered a lot of the sustainability drivers here, but anything else that you would add to that?
Yeah, the most of them are really covered already. And for me, it's difficult to judge because I'm a little bit from another market. But from my side, what I see that the key challenge here is in achieving the balance between three main points. First one is the technical properties of paper. Second one is cost, of course. And the third is sustainability. And all three of them should be combined all together because combination of any two is no longer enough. We during the years, so the packaging and paper industries were developing in focusing on two of them, paper performance and cost. But for some customers, it's no longer enough. They would like to keep these two parameters, but also add the sustainability and how to achieve all of three to do not make the sustainable packaging very expensive, to keep the cost, fair cost, and also to keep the fair technical property. That's the challenge, how to achieve the balance between this.
Thank you. And so we've talked about some of the goals and drivers for fiber-based packaging. Where do we see the key challenges and the key opportunities then in terms of the innovation agenda that derives from this? So I guess one of the most interesting ones from my point of view is adding functionalities that don't traditionally exist in paper, particularly when they're moving in on applications that were traditionally dominated by plastics. Is this the biggest area, do you think?
I would agree with you, Tim. I think really the number one requirement for any packaging is that it's fit for purpose. And, there is not one single material that will achieve all the properties we need to meet that goal. And, there are many shades between a fully plastic-free packaging and a full plastic packaging. And it's really about the balance, as Alexander was also highlighting, to obtain the right performance, the right protection of the packed good and hygiene and any other market requirements. So I think one of the most important innovation field is really in terms of barrier properties and barrier materials. And inside of Forever Green, we have recognized that there are a lot of innovation that have come on the market even since the alliance was formed in the field of barrier packaging. And we recognize that there is not one fit all solution, so we need this mix. And it's not only about the material innovation, then it's also about understanding, do we need downstream also to generate innovation to better handle those new packaging which come on the market. So within the innovation workstream of Forever Green, we are looking if potentially we could propose some novel technologies in terms of recycling or in terms of sorting to adjust to the need of barrier packaging. For example, should we use artificial intelligence or tracers or digital marking to make sure we have the right identification of those barriers? We also look at generating some comparative results in terms of recyclability of different barriers, so wet coatings versus laminated packaging versus extrusion coated, to be able to inform design decision. We also try to understand what's the fate of those barrier material within the recycling process. Are there also potentially innovation that could help us valorizing those barrier, well, reject in most cases for now? So once we have selected the range of technologies that we will be testing, we hope to be able to provide some highlights for industrial implementation of some of those technologies in the future.
Thanks, Elodie. Sylvia, Alexander, any other kind of challenges and opportunities on the high level that you would like to highlight?
I would like to build on what Elodie was saying, that in the past, we never thought that we would be able to create a new product, for example, like the 95.5, where we have 95% of paper and only 5% of coating, which has really allowed us to tackle some new applications where paper has not been used. In general, I would say that for applications where we don't need any barrier, plastic can be replaced by paper very easily. When we go to a more higher barrier solutions, there we really have to look more closer and then maybe combine technologies together to have the thinnest possible paper, the thinnest possible coating on it. And as Elodie has also already mentioned, it really depends on the end use of the product. So if you are expecting a 2 years shelf life from a product, that's not necessarily maybe something we should be striving for, but we should be looking for some applications or some products that can protect what is inside, but not last like forever, but we consume it. Also, maybe what we should reconsider is our consumerism and look into the fact that the resources are very precious, and we have to invest in those and how to make sure that those resources are getting back into the loop, and then we can recycle them.
Thank you. And Alexander, any other challenges or opportunities that you would highlight?
Yes. Couple of things from my side. So first of all, regarding opportunities, they are huge because most of the plastic-based packaging products could be substituted by the fiber-based analogs. Yeah, a lot of companies work now on developing of new packaging to replace existing plastic bottles, tubes, bags, to make them more sustainable, more CO2 neutral, biodegradable, etc. So the opportunities are really huge, but there are also huge challenges. I can highlight 3 of them from my perspective. The first one is how to align cost of innovative packaging with existing cost, because everyone wants sustainable packaging unless they have to pay for additional value. Usually, innovative products cost more due to several reasons, and not all of the customers are willing to pay more. So that's the first challenge, to align the cost. The second one is the technical properties, how to achieve same performance as plastic do, how to achieve simultaneously flexibility and durability, and much more. And the third one may be a little bit subjective from my side, but what I see, it's a challenge with implementation, because the speed of implementation in the industry is a little bit low. The contracts with suppliers very long, requirements are very strict, but it takes so long time from when the innovation came into the stage when this innovation will be implemented. So I came from a different industry, and for me, it's a little bit challenging to deal with such so classic and so conservative market. So I think that the speed of implementation of innovation is also a quite challenging thing for packaging industry.
Thank you. And I'm interested in how all of you, and I suppose especially Elodie and Sylvia, you are directly have a direct relationship with the brand owner. Have you had sort of direct feedback from brand owners about the way the plastics agenda in general and the single-use plastics directive in particular are impacting their view on paper and their demands on paper innovation?
We said that the transition already started away from unnecessary plastic where possible towards fiber. And I think the different directives, including the single-use plastic directive, are accelerating this transition. And to come back to what Alexander just said, it's true that the cost might be greater for making this shift, but at the same time, there are in some of the regulatory package some plastic taxes, as well as an eco-modulation of the extended producer responsibility fees, which actually allow, when you look at the overall cost of a solution, coming a little bit closer. So I think that's also one of the intentions that the people making regulation have in terms of pushing the transfer to more circular materials. Not all what is in the single-use plastic directive is a ban. Of course, there are a few bans where it's clear, people or brand owner cannot use any more plastic. But there are also some cases where it's more a fine measure about consumption reduction, and you can have many different ways to approach that. So I would like to take maybe 3 examples of product and how the directive maybe is affecting us. One would be that France banned plastic for produce, for some types of produce, at least beginning of this year. And of course, we have seen greater demand for our trace solutions and lids, which can be plastic free, to cover this strict requirements in that case, because not everything can be sold in bulk or loose shape. Another example I'd like to take would be our multi-pack solution for 6 cans or 4 bottles. There is no like a strict ban, but there are some countries like Spain which have put some measure in the national transposition of the single-use plastic directive that they discourage the use of plastic for those packaging which have such a small size that they would be prone to end up as accidental litter in the environment, and anyways they are too difficult to recycle. And plastic rings, often used for such application, are named as one where there would be a need to avoid using plastic. So of course that's also fueling shrink films and rings into paperboard multi-pack. A last application is maybe the boxes that are having a plastic window traditionally, where we see also more demand to move away from using plastic towards a cellulose-based material for this application. In Forever Green, we have been designing a circularity by design guideline, which was released in February. And it's really to enable the brand owners to take the decisions they need in this shift, while keeping in mind the recyclability, the optimal recyclability of the fiber-based packaging they would shift to.
Thank you. Sylvia, would you like to build on that?
Yes, and although we have not met in personality and we have not worked together, but our companies did. So one of the applications you have been mentioning with regards to the multi-packs and the plastic around that, there are solutions today that can be used. Talk about the banderoles, stretch wrap. There are paper-based solutions which can easily replace these plastic-based applications. And indeed, we need to see, do we really need them? Yes or no? So I think what is the most important, that we focus on design of our products with the end life in mind, more than the purpose itself. So we make sure that when we come up with an idea of a new product, we already think about it, okay, by the time it will finish its purpose, what do we do with it? Do we put it back into the recycling stream and close the loop by that, and we get the fibers back again, and we can reuse them by combining it with some virgin materials? or we can compose them, for example, and then we give it back to the nature and we can grow new trees, for example, with them. So I think it is extremely important for everybody who is coming up with new products that we really think about the end of life.
Thank you. Okay, so we've started by sketching out the bigger picture of drivers and opportunities. I'd like to look in a more detailed way now at some of the areas of innovation and innovation strategies that we see across the value chain today. First of all, I'd like to ask all of you: are there any particular areas of R&D going on that you think are really important to highlight? Maybe not talking about your own particular organizations, but more generically across industry, important and maybe groundbreaking areas of innovation that we should be paying attention to.
I can go first if you want, but
okay,
I don't want to be always jumping. So, if someone else wants to go, I'm also fine to leave the space. Well, I think we already mentioned a lot of innovation in terms of substituting plastic and the role that barrier plays, and therefore the innovation in terms of, for example, dispersion coatings that can replace barriers which traditionally were thicker and were standard traditional plastic. The combinations of those different barriers to really reach the right barrier properties. And one area where I feel there is still a need for research is the plastic-free barrier that would still meet the requirement to pack sensitive products, and also the liquid barrier or water vapor barrier. And on that, there are efforts ongoing at the moment to scale up some research that has been done already many years ago in terms of naturally occurring biopolymers such as protein or cellulose derivatives or different types of surface treatment that could be on the one hand side plastic-free and bio-based, but on the other hand, as Sylvia said, potentially also bring up some wider end-of-life scenario for maybe food contaminated packaging where maybe composting could make sense. So I think it's really one area where there is a lot of research. Then the enabling of circularity. So we mentioned already the sorting novel technologies. I think there are also some technologies which are not pure barrier, but could be in terms of having easy peel off of the different material or easy separation in the recycling stream that enabled enhance the circularity. And then for me, the a little bit long-term, big trend should be in the future about minimizing food waste and product waste in general. So making sure that our packaging are even doing more than currently in terms of potentially extending shelf life or indicating end of best by leveraging some of the innovation that are available in terms of active and intelligent packaging.
Yeah. Alexander, would you like to add any other areas?
Yeah. Talking generally about the industry, not particularly about our company. So from my perspective, the biggest area for innovation in the industry is using cost-effective alternatives to pulp. For example, using bio-waste instead of wood pulp. Yeah, we were the first one who started to do this with fallen leaves, but there are a lot of different companies who is doing the same with different bio-waste. For example, with wheat straw, with bagasse, with grass, etc., etc. So there are a lot of bio-waste in the world, and the features of this bio-waste is almost the same as in traditional branch. So, and this is the most undeveloped direction which I see for now. These properties are not pretty much discovered yet, and the biggest area is to discover these properties and how to obtain the fiber from this alternative bio-waste, etc. Because in the case of using the bio-waste, in most of the cases, the performance of product is the same, but the CO2 emission is significantly lower. On the example of fallen leaves, which is the main raw material in our startup, so we can achieve the CO2 emission for 78% less. This is a huge amount of CO2 which are not going to atmosphere, etc. So if all the companies will work in terms of R&D and innovation in that field, so we can achieve not only the perfect product properties and relevant cost, but also the excellent sustainability of finished products.
Thank you. I'm going to come back to that in a moment because I'm very curious to hear more about your particular startup and everything involved in that. So we will hold that thought for just for a couple more minutes. Sylvia, any other areas of innovation that you think are particularly important?
Yeah, I was just thinking it is not only food contact, but all the other big markets like toy packaging, for example. When I see my kids opening a Lego or something else, with all the plastic packaging coming out of these boxes, there are new markets maybe where we should look into. And those are actually the applications where we see still further growth, where we could go with paper-based packaging. Also, yeah, back to food, pasta packaging. I would have never thought some years back that we would be suddenly packing pasta in printed packages, which need to be really strong and needs to be scratch resistant, so it survives the trip to the shops and so on. So it is possible today with having a nice print on it. So it's innovation, not only on the product side, but I think where we need to have innovation is how we are doing business itself, how we are marketing our products, how we are collaborating, for example. So in the past, it was collaboration based on materials and it was a lot of investments. But today, we need to make sure that we are also involving companies like Alexander's company. We are working together with OEMs, with machine manufacturers, to make sure that what we develop as a new paper, it is running on the machines, and when it gets to our customers, it is running properly and fast. Because that is also one of the questions when you have plastic versus paper. If I replace my plastic-based packaging, will I be as efficient with the paper as I used to be with plastic? And it is possible today. So it's also the direction we have to think, that it is working in the full chain.
Thank you. Okay, so let's zoom in a little bit further still, and I'm interested in hearing about your three respective organizations, the innovation activities that you have. And as I said, Alexander, I'd really like to hear more about Relief. Could you just give us a bit more detail about how it got started and what status you're at the moment?
Well, so Relief Paper is a Ukrainian-based startup which was born from innovation. And everything we do daily is a total innovation. We never work in the traditional market. 4 years ago, my partner, I hope he's online now. So 4 years ago, he accidentally discovered the method of obtaining fiber from fallen leaves gathered from urban areas. Later on, this technology was improved, patented, and industrialized. And using our technology, we produce paper, which is used as a liner, or it could be used for production of paper bags, for production of notebooks, corrugated boxes, etc. But despite of the ongoing war, which we faced in our countries 3 months ago, we are moving forward with innovation activities in two main directions. The first one is exploring and developing of new products that our technology allows to do. Now, currently, the main focus is on development of corrugated boxes and different types of cast packaging, mainly for fast food industry. In all the cases, we use fallen leaves gathered from the urban areas, big cities, etc., parks, because they are an excellent source of fiber for the production of paper and further byproducts. But also we do another kind of R&D right now. We are exploring features of new types of biowaste, mainly tropical plants. We have an ongoing R&D project in Latin America right now, aimed to reach two targets in one shot: to produce corrugated boxes from the waste of pineapples for the big pineapple exporter. So that's the mainly two directions which relief paper is focused now.
Thanks very much. And one of the questions that always springs to my mind when I hear about these very exciting and inspiring kinds of ideas of alternative feedstocks for paper is the challenge of upscaling. Is that something that you've had a chance to think about?
Scaling is quite easy. We can replicate this business is in any geography where the leaves exist. So it could be in Europe with our traditional leaves, or it could be tropical countries with some exotic plants like pineapples, bananas. So it could be replicated everywhere. Leaves are available everywhere, and it's not the seasonal business as a lot of people think. So yeah, we receive the most of the volumes of the leaves in autumn. That's true, but we do granulation of these leaves, and that's why we make them available whole year. That's why it's absolutely not a seasonal business, and you even cannot imagine how many leaves so each big city generates. It's a thousand and thousands of tons yearly. So that's the extremely big volume. That's why there is absolutely no any problem with the sourcing of raw materials for such kind of production.
On a completely anecdotal level, there's one tree which is about 50 meters from my garden, and every autumn and winter, it takes a lot of labor just to clear that small part of that one tree's fallen leaves. So I guess that I can relate to that point that you made. Thank you. And one other comment. I mean, you've alluded to the horrific situation that Ukraine is in, and I mean that's the biggest story. For it puts everything else in perspective. But in terms of the wider dynamics of the European packaging industry, there are also impacts on raw material availability, and of course, Russia is a big player in the fiber-based industry. So, I guess in terms of security. Material security, having alternative feedstocks like this is something it's in everyone's interest.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Everybody's interest, but it takes a lot. And anyway, this is a huge innovation. It takes years to implement this innovation into existing business processes. Yeah. So we started last year, but I look forward we will succeed in nearest years to take a big part of the pie.
Good. And for those who are listening and watching and interested in having opportunity to support an exciting startup, and also interested in supporting a Ukrainian startup, are there any opportunities for them to get in touch with you? Anything that you want from the wider community?
Nothing special. Thank you, everyone, for supporting our country and supporting our startup. We're getting a lot of emails and notes from all over the world. And if anyone is interested and have the resources for scaling this technology in other countries, other markets, so we are open for conversation, because we are interested in the scaling our business and our technology all over the world. So now is an excellent moment for going global. So if you're interested to go in with us, we are open for communication.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so let's turn to let's go to Sylvia then, and same question, but obviously much larger organization. So you have lots of different areas of R&D and innovation going on. Could you tell us a little bit more about your own R&D strategy around paper?
Yeah, so I was just about to say that Mondi is a little bit bigger organization than a startup would be, where, as I hear, is really the core of the company innovation. So how can you do that when you are a big organization? So you have different strategies you can take. One of the options is you hire a team of people who will be focusing on innovation and will do R&D, and that is what they do day and night. What we have decided at Mondi is that we will embed innovation in our vision. So we will create a circular-driven solution created by empowered people. What does that mean is that everybody within the organization is participating in innovation. So it is not only the R&D guys specifically looking into the paper, but it is all the other areas as well, from logistics until production. Everybody is involved and they can have ideas. So our corporate advantage is that, okay, we are a big organization, but everybody is allowed to take a risk and be authentic and own your own decisions. We have a Mondi Action Plan 2030. This is a plan where we have set some targets for ourselves to meet 2030 goals, some ambitious 2030 goals. And it is based on 3 pillars: on circular-driven solutions, where each product we are developing or having at Mondi should contribute to be circular. Then empowered people. As I mentioned, everybody is responsible for getting to a better world, and action on climate is the third one. And in this, you can find our CO2 emissions, water, and all the different targets we have put. So I would highly recommend to everybody who is watching and who is interested on where we stand today in our plans and our targets to visit our website and to have a closer look. It is quite nicely showing there where we are at the moment and where we are heading to. So with regards to R&D, as you can imagine, it's quite broad. So on one hand side, we are looking into paper, different kinds of paper. As you might know, we have the world's strongest paper in our company, a flexibility of paper to be able to replace flexible packages like stretch wrap, for example. Then we are looking into barriers, as has been mentioned, dispersion coating, extrusion coating, using new types of materials and their combinations, from biopolymers until existing polymers, quite a broad range of products we are working on. Even looking into transparent applications as well to replace like the windows, for example, in the packaging. So that could be also something I could mention.
Thank you. And Elodie, you've been wearing your Forever Green hat more than your graphic packaging hat so far, but maybe we go back to graphic packaging now, and you can tell us about your innovation agenda.
Yeah, of course. A lot of it is close to what Mondi also has in the pipeline. But I would say, in terms of innovation, we structure our main areas in 3 different buckets. So the first one is plastic substitution. The second one is trans packaging. The third one is cooking solution. And all those are enabled through structural design and packaging enhancement. And really the main driving factor for almost every new innovation is sustainability. So we really try to embed sustainability in our process to develop new products through a methodology we call design for the environment. Giving a few examples, maybe. So moving towards smarter and smarter design. So for example, fiber-based packaging, which are able to replace plastic tub because of a new functionality like child-proof functionality, or packaging which are designed to be more and more resource efficient, such as our clip multi-packs, which can replace more material demanding fully enclosed carton, for example. Another example would be we are collaborating in the field of molded fiber because we feel it's one of the technologies that will help us replacing plastic in a shape that maybe were not traditionally feasible for us before. And then I guess I totally agree with Sylvia in the sense that, there are also enabling technologies like translucent paper and cellulose materials, which can, meet the demand of the consumer, and a property may be missing when we transition away from plastic. So I think there are very few limits for innovation in our area. And of course, the machinery innovation are very important, as well as an enabler to scale up whatever we propose in terms of fiber-based packaging. So either ourselves having machinery innovation, or making sure we collaborate with OEM, so that there is a kind of drop-in when our customer will make the shift, from example, from a plastic tray to a fiber tray.
Thank you very much. And so when following progress in the plastics industry, working on the important progress and areas of innovation that they require to incorporate plastics into a circular economy, I see a lot of very inspiring collaboration and pre-collaborative spirits across the plastics value chains and across all companies that are also competitors. And Forever Green is often described as a kind of equivalent in the paper sector to organizations like CFlex. So I'm interested whether you have the same kind of cross-industry collaboration and how that functions when it comes to trying to accelerate innovation in fiber-based packaging.
Maybe I can go first.
Back to your Forever Green role again, Elodie.
Yeah, Monty is also a member of Forever Green, so I'm happy for Sylvia to complement maybe what I can say to start with. I mean, when I look at CFlex and when I look at Forever Green, both are totally aiming towards accelerating the circular economy. And for me, circular economy is something that can only work when you do it through collaboration. So, it's the only approach we can take. And really, Forever Green tries to really embed the entire value chain and have a holistic approach. It's very important also because we are generating guidelines and protocols. So we need to tap upon the knowledge of the experts which are out there, so that then there is a good endorsement of whatever we propose to follow as a solution. We need to break silos. We need to understand what are our common problems and what could be a solution to those together. But I'd like to make a little shade on, the scope of those alliances. It needs to stay at pre-competitive level. So we need to serve common interest, but we need to avoid European competition law issues, of course. So typically we would be looking at innovation in sorting, but we wouldn't be looking at innovation in terms of materials which would be used within our packaging innovation. This is, of course, something that the paper industry is also collaborating with, suppliers of coatings or suppliers of adhesive and so on, but outside of the framework of the alliance. So, we make sure that we collaborate to have the next generation of high performance packaging or plastic-free coatings, whatever, but it cannot be done directly within the frame of Forever Green.
Thank you. Sylvia.
Yeah, I do agree, obviously. But what I wanted to add maybe to it, I really find it important that these organizations are formed and we are taking active part in them. It is very important that we take a collective effort to create a norm that is understandable and reasonable, because what happened in the past and we had experience with is a certain norm and the directive is created without people who are actually dealing with the product are involved. So I find it is really important that we can raise our voice as a packaging producer or paper producer, and that together with all the other companies, we can shape a little bit this norm and we get a good feedback. We also create a pool of experience. So while going through these processes, we learn quite some. So the others who would be then jumping on the wagon later on, that we would be able to help them and share our experience on how we got to where we are today. I think circularity works, and it is our responsibility to prove it. So we all need to be in it together.
Thank you. So we've had a few questions from the audience that I'd like to have a time to answer. So we'll try to wrap up quite quickly with our discussion. But before we do so, I'm interested in your thoughts about where are the ultimate limitations of paper. We're talking about the addition of functionalities and the possibilities of innovation. Is there a ceiling that you believe that probably isn't going to be possible to break in terms of final possibilities of paper, or are there certain functionalities where maybe it's possible, things like paper bottles that we're seeing, but where they're probably going to stay as niche products and you can't see them going beyond that?
I can start with no constraints.
Yeah, please do, Alexander. Yeah.
No, I don't see any limitations of paper that cannot be fixed if desired. But what I see, as I said before, I see a big issue in promotion of idea to destroy existing supply chains and integrate the new packaging supply into production. From my perspective and from the perspective of my company, this is the biggest issue for us, because as a small and innovative company, we have a lot of solutions how to substitute different complicated existing plastic products like plastic bottles, etc. We have ready solutions, and we have a lot of small companies around who already working or already develop some kind of alternatives. But how to implement this solution into industrial scale, that's the biggest problem from the perspective of such companies. That's why to create the great innovation is not a problem, but how to integrate the supply chain, how to destroy everything what is working on now, to terminate existing contracts, etc. So that's the big challenges from my perspective. Then the biggest barrier at the moment.
Thank you. Sylvia.
I would tend to agree with Alexander. I don't think there is any limitation for paper. I mean, if we just think back 5 years, we did not think that we would be able to coat at 5% coating. We were not thinking that we would be able to achieve a barrier like a multi-layer plastic. We were not thinking we will be able to stretch paper. We are able today. So the question is, what is coming? It's hard to say that, but I do think that with all the creative colleagues around and the needs from our customers and the market, we will be able to just get there, whatever the needs are, also based on paper. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I totally agree, as I'm also an innovation and sustainability person, I don't see any limit. I think there are even cases where it's really the brand owner rethinking the product to enable the use of a more circular material. So we have seen solid shampoos, which are easier to pack in fiber-based packaging than maybe liquid ones. So, it's really about all the ecosystem to innovate together. I'd like to make a couple of small comments on what the answers from Alexander and from Sylvia were to the previous question. I think the new fibers are definitely something to consider, but at the same time, we need to make sure that within the current system, which is based on wood fibers, a lot of them coming as a byproduct from the construction industry or as recycled fiber, we need to make sure that those new fibers are compatible and do not disturb the well-functioning system of recycling mill. And for that, I would encourage that any new fiber-based packaging producer would pass the recyclability evaluation test that has come from Forever, that is coming from Forever Green as an harmonized protocol. in order to make sure that it's compatible. And a lot of the work that Forever Green is doing, and now coming back to what Sylvia was doing, is about generating this harmonization. So harmonization of what is considered recyclable. How do we test recyclability? What are the best practices for collection? And there are different guidelines which are being published throughout the year on that. And I think it's very important, because it's one of our biggest challenges, that each country is looking at collection and recyclability in a different fashion.
Thank you very much. So one very final question, then I'll try to put a couple of questions from the audience to you. Just widening out again beyond this focus on material innovation, are there any other major strategic pressures that you think we should go away thinking about as an industry that we need to face? So I'm thinking, for example, about access to the required volumes of virgin and recycled fibers, how well the collection and recycling infrastructure is working internationally, etc. Yeah, I'll let you each pick out one that you think is most important. Sylvia, go first.
Yeah, so I would like to build on what Elodie just said with regards to resources. It is very important that the raw materials we are putting out there are getting back into the stream, and that we know how to collect and recycle our products. So this is something that Mondi we are looking also very close to. I have mentioned EcoVantage, which is a recycled product. So we are trying to do it ourselves, that we learn also how the best it is to recycle our products, so we can share it with the industry as well afterwards.
Thank you. Alexander, anything you'd pick out?
I can speak a lot about alternatives, as I said, about bio-waste, etc. But basically, what I think that virgin fiber will always be an issue from the terms of economical perspective and ethical perspective. And so there are a lot of bio-waste, and I encourage everyone to switch to bio-waste instead of cellulose. It will save your time, save your cost, and will resolve the problem with the raw materials availability.
And Elodie will give you the final word.
Yeah, I think, the supply issue, I cannot comment on the geopolitical situation behind that, but I think, all the effort we are all doing in terms of making sure that we use the available fibers as efficiently as possible, and that we keep everything in the loop for as long as possible, that we reduce any loss in collection, sorting and recycling, will help towards this goal of having more resilience locally, also to avoid sources that can be maybe a little bit conflictive. So let's work together on that.
Thank you very much. Right, well, I think we have time for 2, maybe 3 questions that I've seen appearing in the LinkedIn feed. So let's go to those with no hesitation. First of all, Alexander, there's quite a lot of curiosity about your solution on the feed. And one person has asked, you mentioned tropical feedstocks and, for example, pineapple. So when using different feedstocks for the paper, do you find that you get different quality of paper from these, and how do you handle that in terms of consistency of product?
Of course, the quality is different, but if we're talking about normal gratitudes, or like in the Europe, so we can mix leaves all together. It's always be a mix, and the quality will be more or less the same. That's one pair of the shoes. And the second, if we're talking particularly about tropical plants, in that case, the property will be different, and the application should be different. In Europe, leaves are more suitable for production of liner, corrugated box, paper bags. In tropical countries, the leaves of pineapples and bananas are more for toilet paper and hygienic products.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, another question then. Do you have any insights into the do you have any insights to share on the acceptance of coated papers in the paper waste stream? So are paper mills and repulpers taking these materials at scale and recycling their fibers? Elodie or Sylvia, maybe?
Well, we can maybe both give a perspective. I think the main problem is the different rules for collection in the different countries. And then, of course, the acceptance level that the recyclers will have. And this is why in Forever Green, we have a full work stream working on aligning what we consider recyclable in standard mills, what we consider recyclable in de-inking mills and in specialized mills. So, you know, at the end of the day, we need a common message, and we all need to move in the same direction and maybe make a few compromises. But yeah, the idea is really by doing also design for circularity, we enable that this new packaging are accepted at some levels of recycling mills.
And I would like to just add that products like 95.5, you can recycle them everywhere. All across Europe, they would be accepted. We have different variants of that, where you would go, for example, for 80-20, which could be recycled in some countries, but not everywhere. So there are possibilities to recycle, and some of the products, like dispersion-coated products, can be also widely accepted in recycling streams all across.
Thank you. I have to say, from someone who's very much material agnostic, I've come across examples where a pure plastic coating has been put on paper, and the brand has advertised this as eliminating plastic, but the result is that we have a packaging that isn't recyclable. And naming no names, I think that's something that we should call out as, you know, not the sustainable way of replacing plastic with paper. Right, so unfortunately we're out of time. I haven't got time for any more of these questions. Just a couple of very quick reminders before we log off today. First of all, this is part of a regular series of virtual panels. Some of them in the future will be on LinkedIn. Some of them you'll have to sign up on Packaging Europe website to access them. So please do sign up and get full access to all of our content there. Also a reminder that we have a face-to-face three-dimensional event coming up in September, the Sustainable Packaging Summit on the 13th and 14th of September in beautiful Lisbon. This is going to be a high-level, really constructive event that's frankly talking about the challenges that we face. No self-congratulation, really trying to talk about the future and what do we do next. Again, more details can be found on the Packaging Europe website of that. So for now, thank you so much for joining us, and special thanks to our three speakers, Alexander Sobolenko, Sylvia Hansilova, and Elodie Bunyukor. Thank you very much. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.